Good to see you. Thanks for joining us on RT today. We've heard reports of French officers being detained in Homs, and a local we managed to contact spoke of foreign fighters on the ground. Do you think covert operations are already underway in Syria?
I think, yeah, there's been a lot of reports for the last few months about covert operations. I've seen press reports of French and other agents from the region, some of the Gulf countries, and Turkish intelligence officers being arrested. But these are press reports, so I'm not really able to confirm whether they're true or not.
All right, let's talk about the move and the motion here for peace talks in the battle-stricken area. The UN Arab League envoy to Syria, Kofi Annan, he's calling for dialogue, and the voices against escalating violence are now growing louder, as we can see in recent reports. Do you think the defeat of rebels in Homs has discouraged the hawkish opposition supporters abroad?
I think so. I think there's growing recognition that some of the Takfiri, the fundamentalist Islamist groups, who probably make up about 30% of the armed insurgents, that they've been, they're guilty of as much sort of brutality and terrible actions as some of the accusations against the Syrian Army. And I just saw your clip interviewing a resident from Homs who said that they carried out terrible atrocities, and these have been documented in various reports, that on both sides. I think what's important to remember is that Homs really since last March, April has been the scene of, vicious sectarian conflict. And a leading newspaper, Al-Akhbar, last April wrote an article, and they wrote that there was a killing of a Syrian senior military officer with his children and his nephew. And they weren't able to verify, even at that stage last April, who actually had killed this person. There were rumours on both sides and counter-rumours and allegations. And it shows that it's very difficult to know what's happening in a war situation like that, of essentially that's guerrilla warfare. It's very difficult to know. And the mainstream media, of course, presents this as a very one-sided attack of Assad's security forces on innocent civilians. I think probably in wake of the two car bombings, first in Damascus and then in Aleppo, there's much more recognition that, there are some of the Islamist fundamentalist forces, particularly the Takfiris, for who this is not a fight for democracy or greater political and civil rights in Syria. This is a fight to establish a fundamentalist, hardline Sunni regime.
Well, as you talk about the ongoing fight here, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, I do apologise, but you talk about the difficulty of confirming the conflicting reports that are coming out of Syria. Moments ago you mentioned the embattled President Assad. I want to draw our attention to him now, because most UN Security Council members have condemned the humanitarian situation in Syria. Now today we're reporting the government appears to be cooperating with the Red Cross, allowing humanitarian aid to get into Homs. Do you think in any way that can actually help to ease the pressure on Assad at this point?
I think so, but I think, again, we need to be careful of some of the mainstream media coverage. In fact, the ICRC and its local, the Syrian Red Crescent, have been distributing humanitarian aid, medical supplies, water for some days in Hama and Homs. And, for example, they did get ambulances through to take the injured journalists out of Homs. And it was actually the Free Syria Army who refused to let the journalists leave. So I think we need to be quite careful that, suddenly this has been allowed by the Syrian government, whereas in fact this has been going on for some time, and there are lots of on-the-ground reports, including from Al Jazeera, who've confirmed that it was actually the Free Syria Army who've stopped ambulances going in to evacuate both injured Syrians, civilians and insurgents, but also the foreign journalists who were there.
Well, Aisling Byrne, I wish we had more time for this. We don't. Project coordinator for the Conflicts Forum in Beirut. Thanks for coming on RT today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.